another one of those things that may not necessarily be talked about, but it exists, and there's a driving force. So there was 4. We have 3, and there's a 4th?
Yeah, sadly, we lost one to another panel.
Oh.
She could not make it.
I'll track them down. I'll get her.
But these 3 are correct. This is us.
Here we go. Jodi, right there. Tiffany, and then Abby here. Great. No presentation, you guys. You have this, Jodi.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to moderate, if that's okay. I will moderate.
Jodi's moderating. All right. Thanks. Take it away.
Thank you. Is this working? Okay, good. So my name is Jodi Schiller. I'm the founder of New Reality Arts. It is a marketing and AR/VR marketing, mixed reality marketing company. I have been mostly doing consultancy for the last 2 years. Also, I founded a group for women in AR/VR. We have 1,500 people in San Francisco, and we have 3,000 people on our Facebook site. And we've had about almost 20 meetups focusing on all different aspects of both the technology, the industry, and gender diversity. For my marketing company, we are now a full-service studio. We go through from ideation to development to distribution, helping brands learn how to use this new technology, which is pretty much going to be everywhere in the upcoming future. So that's me, and I want to pass the mic to Abby.
Great. Hi, I'm Abby Albright. I am currently a fellow at Mucker Capital, which is a 45 million seed stage venture capital firm in Santa Monica, California. And I'm helping them form an opinion on AR and VR since a lot of investors still haven't pulled the trigger for this space, but they realize that it's coming and that they need to understand the dynamics of the industry. So prior to that, I was at Daiquiri for a little over 3 years in business development and partnerships. And that's an augmented reality software and hardware company. And on the back of your lanyard, as you may have noticed. And then I also work with a number of startups, virtual reality-based startups mainly, and help them with funding and branding and marketing and whatever it is that they need in the very early stages. I really enjoy working with entrepreneurs, and if there are any here that are looking for seed stage funding, I'm happy to talk afterwards.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Willson, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of RoomHints.com. RoomHints is a design communication network helping people to better visualize their space, find furniture, design your kitchen, bathroom. So we're using AR and VR and believe that AR and VR will really help to improve efficiencies in many different capacities in this space to better visualize and talk with designers and connect to designers and basically create that whole 3D environment.
Thank you. And I know these ladies very well, and they're such powerhouses. I'm honored to be on the stage with them. So I think the first question we wanted to bring up is sort of an existential question. And the existential question is, why are we having a panel on women in AR? Why are we even here? I think maybe I'll ask those questions and then we'll bring it back to me. So we'll start with you, Tiff. What's your answer to that question? Why are we here? Why is there a woman in AR panel?
So first off, Jodi and I, we were all talking on the phone. I personally hate events that are strictly women in AR. As a woman, I think that you should always join events that have men there as well and make a voice in the whole community to be seen. But I really liked the idea of this Women in AR event today, as I want to show other women in the industry how great AR is and the opportunities, and inspire other women to get involved and find positions and start building things for AR.
Yeah, I think it's just the same as knowing that we are out there, that you're among other women, and that it's just to remind you that there is support in the industry. Not that there are not men that support this, as luckily there are, but just to serve as a reminder, really, I think is what's important. And as resources. So I really believe that in helping other women as much as possible. So I want to be a resource, and if I can help, great.
Thank you. So I'm going to make just a really big statement here, and that is that I think that that I passionately believe that augmented and virtual reality is the next computing platform, is the exponential technology. And if we do not make sure right here, right at the beginning, that we have a diverse creator base, all of humanity will be in danger. I really, truly believe that. And that's why I started AR+VR Women, because it wasn't even so much for the women, it's for all of us, right? We all need to have a part in creating something that everywhere we go will be filling our eyes and filling our life, right? So let's make sure that that's not just some small homogenous group that traditionally has been a part of the technology ecosystem. Let's make a huge impact now. Let's make sure that right from the beginning, not just women and men, but Black people, brown people, people from various different cultures, as much as we can, let's make an impact now and change that trajectory from sort of this sort of small homogenous group into this much larger group, because we've got a whole world waiting for us, and if we're in this room, we are the thought leaders of augmented reality. So I think it's on us to make a big difference. And that's why I started AR+VR Women. I agree with them also in the sense that, very much so, that the women in this community have been such a huge support, and honestly, the men too. This is a great community in so many different ways. But it's really great to have these incredible, powerful, strong women who can back me up wherever I go. And I've met some of the most extraordinary people. I just have to talk about my friend Jessica. She actually has faced down Somali warlords, and she's in AR. So there are some incredibly empowered women in this field, and if for no other reason, I'd like other women to come here and meet these other women.
Oh, sure. I actually forgot to mention one of the things that I'm working on with Malia, Martina, and Marco, actually. But it's called Women in XR, and I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it is a new initiative that we're kicking off, hopefully this fall, and it will serve as a place for resources, monetary advice, and just like various support. So it'll be a number of different things, but watch out for that and sign up for the newsletter if you'd like. But yeah, we're gonna make that happen. So.
Cool. I'll just add on Jodi's point of awesome women. Women also come to this landscape with they see the problem differently. So having diversity on your teams really enables you to create an interesting solution, and being able to visualize that problem in different aspects helps a lot. You'll beat out your competition, or you'll think of things in just a whole different light. So be active and have a lot of different voices solving each of these problems.
That reminds me of the thing we were talking about before, this software bias, the bias in software. And I think that is part of the risk of not having enough women's voices in creating product because of the bias. And I just think of even the bias that most of the voice assistants are default women's voices, and even women's names in certain instances. And now but that's the default. They do have other options, but why is it the default? Why is it that something that takes the commands, if you will, of someone and is at their beck and call is a default woman? And so I think just that as an example is what we have at risk if we don't have enough women's voices in this.
Okay, so I'm going to jump to another question that was a little ahead, taking from what you guys are talking about, and so it's a social good, right, to have us all involved in this, but I think also a really important point to make is it's not just a social good; it is a financial. I just think that you are missing the boat if you don't have a diverse team, because the consumers are diverse. In fact, on one of our primary values, and we think our competitive advantage for New Reality Arts, is the fact that I have such a large network of diverse VR and AR creators that when I'm going out to marketing executives and saying, I can talk to your people. I know your people because 60% of your market is women, and my creators are also a lot of women. They will more quickly be able to decide what your consumers are going to want. They will more quickly be able to come up with experience that will resonate with your consumers. It saves time and it saves money and it's going to give you better experiences. So it's not just a social good, it's also financial need, I think, for all of us as successful entrepreneurs and as people looking to succeed in the field, that we make sure that our teams are a reflection of the consumers that we actually are going to be creating these experiences for. On to you, Abby.
I would just second that. I mean, I think that that's really important. And I also believe, obviously, that not all women are the same and not all men are the same. And so to think that women can all speak to other women, I think that's tricky, but it's true. There is something that has defined us because society has treated women a certain way and treated men a certain way, that we do have like some solidarity there that we understand, some consistency. And so I do think that that's the important thing to tap into. But yeah, you said it. I mean, so yeah.
I'll just add one thing. If you look at future generations, like the younger generations, it seems boys were more attracted to technology when I grew up, but I look at my nieces and my friends who have kids, and they're using technology just as much as their brothers or the sisters. So the future generations, women and men, will be both on VR and AR headsets just as much. So having women creating those stories for those headsets and those games or whatever environment it is will be powerful, and we have to be active in this story.
And just one more thing, I mean, kind of taking a veer off to our sister technology, to VR. Right now, the numbers are pretty sad in terms of women's engagement with VR. There's just I think it's like 90% of most VR users at home are men and 10% are women. But I think that we have to all remember, as people at the forefront of our technology, this is not how it's going to be. This is just the beginning. Yeah. And so we have to be looking ahead and planning for the future, not just creating for what the situation is in the moment. And I personally believe, because of the nature of AR, where you have the experiences are shared in real time all around you, I think that's going to be even more appealing to women, many women, than VR, than this sort of idea of putting yourself in a headset and isolating. So I think AR is going to be even, if anything, even far more appealing to women, and you're going to need even more women on your team to be able to do it. So on that note, I want to bring up kind of what becomes an issue, and I think a lot of women feel stymied or threatened by going into tech because they don't necessarily have a tech background. And so one of the sort of things that I want to point out to you here on this panel, all these three powerful women in the industries, I don't think any of us have a tech background. We bring skills to the table that are so valuable and that are missing, right? We know how to manage people. We know how to project manage. We know how to talk to customers. We know how to do sales. There are so many different things that we can bring to the table, and that's not even talking about application, right? If you're talking about a healthcare application and you're a doctor, if you're talking about a neuroscience, there's so many different things that we can bring to the table that aren't necessarily exactly the tech. And then you come and you learn the technology, which is honestly has been one of the greatest experiences of being here, is learning the technology. It has been a thrill from beginning to end. And I'm actually on the IEEE panel for developing standards for the technology for around the world. And it is fascinating to be a part of bringing together the ethical considerations, the user interface considerations, and the technology itself and engineering, and how do we look at the whole picture. So that's one thing I want to make sure women understand in general, because I hear that a lot, like, well, I don't have a tech background. Well, you don't need a tech background. In fact, there's a lot of people with a tech background already here. What we need is you. Whatever you are bringing, that's what we need. So
Yeah, no, you bring up a good point, because when I first got into technology, I'd already had a background in film, and I had been in medical school and done all these things, but I did not have a technology background, and I fell prey to the discussion is, oh, are you technical? No, I don't know what that means. Like, do you mean that can I learn details and systems and make an analysis around something? Yes, but do you mean am I actually a software engineer? No. And I kind of hate that division, because it's almost used in an arrogant way, and it's not really helpful for anyone, because I might bring in a different perspective. And it took me a few years, really, to embrace the fact that, okay, so if someone says I'm not technical, that doesn't mean I'm any less valuable in the company. And of course, like you said, you can learn it. I've learned a ton as I go. And so I think that's important if you are non-technical, to remember that, just not to be swayed by that, not to be deterred.
Yeah, I have a background in biology and a master's in design. So I came to this field with a very unique perspective. But that said, anytime they're joining engineers or more convincing engineers to come solve this problem, I always used it as a benefit, saying, hey, I can think of it from this way, whereas you guys can think of it from the technical perspective. And that said, over the course of the 3 years of the company, I have started to build products. I built our last version of our app, and the more that you can, even though you're not technical, the more that you can get into the code and teach yourself the code, the better your teammates will, the better you'll work together in terms of language and just understanding each other, and the more that then they'll want to understand your perspective as well. So don't ever be afraid to not have the technology background, but really dive into it.
Yeah, if anything, I think the biggest challenge of not having a technical background isn't actually not having the technical background. It's a management issue. Because when you are a technical person, you tend to be very linear, and you tend to have a very structured approach, and you tend to have a hard time understanding the larger holistic picture, right? Which is why they need you. But sometimes they don't know that they need you as much as you know that they need you. So that, I think, is actually more the problem than anything else when you're coming into tech and you're working with technology in general, is how do you bring this holistic view and integrate with the technical folks and the technology, and also make sure that you're connecting the dots from the technology to your customers, to the consumers, to the application that actually is effective. That takes everybody, right? That takes a million different points. That takes as many different points of views as we can bring to the table. So that's my comment about that.
We are almost out of time. I was wrong. You have 30 minutes left. Oh, great. How much time do we have?
30 minutes left?
30 minutes total, you have another 15.
Oh, okay. Great.
Got it.
I'll just add one point to Jodi made me think. One thing, you want to work with people who realize your value. So you want to work with engineers that know that they need you, and know that you come with the vision or the idea or the direction or the management, whatever skill set you have to the team. Make sure that your teammates really respect you and understand that and need you on the team. It'll just make for a way more efficient process in building products.
Oh,
Can I move on? Because I was going to go the next question that we had that sort of leads into like this other question. So on that note, I think that maybe one of the questions that we had sort of as we're looking at developing augmented reality experiences, how is the software now being developed in a way that either doesn't or does work better for women? Or is there a way that it could be developed better so that women might be more active users? Or have you guys have ideas around that?
I think creating products that women will enjoy. I think that there needs to be more women creators. I have played a lot of AR games. There's great dancing games. There's a lot of games that are more geared towards men because men are the ones that are creating them. So I think that, and I don't mean this specifically being like creating design or shopping or those kind of products, but just products, as Jodi said earlier, women do communicate more on text and messaging. It's seen that the numbers show extreme usage compared to men. So creating more conversational apps or tools and utilities that women can really use, lists, journals, whatever it is, or even bigger picture items as well, I think are needed.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're already starting to see that with the content coming out for VR at least, which is that there are going to be a lot fewer first-person shooter games, and this is generalizing what women like versus men like, and I realize that, and it may not be that of course there are women that like first-person shooter games, but I believe the numbers are more supportive of men, and so we are starting to see that people realize there's a need for other content besides very violent stuff.
We wanted to bring up, we talked carefully about this, and we have to acknowledge, I think, the elephant in the room, right? Like, we're talking about what are the barriers to women in technology? What are the barriers to women in there's the non-technical background. That's a big one that people can encounter that we're trying to overcome. There's potentially that there aren't other women to sort of be with or socialize with, and so that's another barrier that we are trying to overcome. And then truthfully, there is discrimination and there is harassment. And those are real problems, and all three of us have encountered that in various different capacities. And so for that issue, all we can say is just keep moving forward, trying to stay positive about how we can make changes, connect with those of us who share our values in the larger community as well as in our smaller communities, and speaking up, right? As much as collectively as possible, just speaking up and saying, hey, we just want to have a nice work environment. That's it. Yep. You know, really, it's not a big deal. Like, we just want to have a work environment that feels good. Who doesn't want that? That's not toxic. Or what I say is, like, we just want work environments that don't suck. Simple as that.
Yeah, I have so many thoughts on this. So I think that the hard part is figuring out where the lines are. So where's the line between staying the course, because no matter where you go as a woman, most likely you will face some discrimination. So at one point, do you leave? Because I do think there are situations that are toxic and that you should leave, right? So how do you determine when that is? And that I don't have an answer for. I think that's a really challenging thing, because you can't just sort of quit every job that you have where you're facing discrimination, because that is the state of the industry. So you
sad comment.
I mean, it is.
I just want to note, I don't think she meant to say such a sad comment.
Sorry. No, it's true. It's true. You're right. Like, what I mean is, we do have to stay the course. We have to not leave tech if we want to change the game. But what is the line where, okay, this is just really not a good environment for you, and you're not going to move up because maybe some people have thoughts about women. That being said, there's a really great resource. It's called womenhack.com. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it is basically Glassdoor for women. It's written by women for women about the work environment and how supportive people have felt that they were towards women, and they are vetted ratings that in terms of that they've made sure that person worked there, or that was, whatever. They can't determine if it were true, of course, but they trust that. Why go on there? And you'll notice that there are some companies that you may have heard rumblings about, and they have a really low score, and so maybe there's some truth behind that. And then places like Google and Facebook have like a stellar rating. I mean, it's impressive what they've been able to accomplish. And so I would recommend that resource, started by a woman as well. And they also have events that they're like recruiting events for women. So really great resource. I'm really glad to see that out there.
Yeah, I think Abby really covered it. One point I'll just add is, like, to stand up. I saw an interesting YouTube video of Jessica Chastain, the actress, at Cannes, and she was talking about how the videos, she had watched 20 videos in 10 days, and how a lot of the films were not representative of modern day women, and she made a very powerful stance. And she also commented that she got the role for a lead actress in this movie and realized that her male lead actor counterpart was being paid double. And as soon as she realized this, she said, "I'm not doing it, I'm out." And just making stances like that are really important. Find people that you do want to work with. And yeah, there's a lot of people out there that are great, even though you read these stories in the newspaper and they do happen. There are a lot of companies that support women and teams that support women and men that really actually enjoy working with women.
Can I?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you touched on the consumer applications, but for professional applications of VR, there are a number of domains where the users of the application will be mostly female, thinking of maybe design and nursing, and these apps today are developed by men, and they may not meet, you know, kind of the usability and kind of the look and feel and the workflows that women want. Do you see a niche there for women developers?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I think there is no logical argument to be made to not have a diverse team, right? There is simply no logical argument to be made not to do that. It is such an imperative. So, like, I don't know how to answer that question except to say, yeah, I mean, like, of course, right? We need as many diverse point of views as possible. I kind of wanted to say, like, my way of handling harassment and going back a little bit is just I'm the boss, right? I pick my team, I pick my partners, I pick my customers, and I really want to see more of that. I want to see women coming out and saying, I'm in charge. Because that's the best way, right? I work with the best people. I love my people on my team. I love my partners. I love my customers. I love them because I chose them. It's I made it my job to be in charge. And that's something I want to see more women doing. I want to see more women just saying, hey, I'm just going to be the boss, right? Like, and then I get to decide.
Yeah, that was the other comment I was going to make too. Is it? I really try to make an effort to do this, which is, if you're unsure if something is happening because you're a woman or because it's due to the way you're viewed in your organization, regardless of your gender, I think that's where I try to play is, okay, how can I be taken more seriously? I can stop saying like, which I probably said 100 times up here. I can hold my, I can sit up straight. And what can I do? Because again, you never know really, is it because of gender? Is it because of just the way you're presenting yourself? And so I really do try to, what can I do? What can Abby do to improve the value and speak up, like you said, and be confident in making decisions and be the boss? And that is something that is refreshing too, right? Because we have that power at least. Because I think I could point to a lot of things where I think that was because I was a woman, but I don't really know. And so if it's not, what is it that I could do to improve?
Yeah, if you don't always have the luxury to be your own boss, still go in with that same mentality that you are the own boss of your career if you want to work at a big corporation.
So the question is, how can we motivate young women, I'm guessing, to go into more technical and engineering fields where they aren't now? That's a huge question, and actually something I've thought a lot about. I think it's a vicious cycle, actually. I think what we're in is a vicious cycle. They're looking ahead at tech and saying, hey, this doesn't look like a great environment for me, right? My friends aren't there. And it's kind of, it comes back down to the beginning. Because computer science used to be a huge female field, actually. There used to be a lot more women in computer science than men, and like way back. So what happened? There's been just a lot of talk and exploration, and I have my theory. A lot of other people have their different theories. I wish I could answer that question so that we could then go out and just solve the problem. But I don't know what the answer is. Maybe these guys do.
I mean, yeah, I think that one of the things that will help is just a lot of the, like, women who code, Black women code, women who tech, all of these
Girls
things
in
where,
tech.
yeah, girls in tech, just starting with funding and resources, and then seeing, of course, strong women founders, and that is going to be helpful. I don't know that it's going to change, but gradually. I think it will be a gradual. Yeah. Yeah, great idea. Great idea.
Yeah, there's a lot to just hiring more women. Many big corporations have limits. They'll say, oh, put 30% of your positions in women. And I just said, no, it's 50%.
Exactly.
You can just speak up as a hiring manager, even if you're a low-level manager.
Yeah, that's a great point. Can we take one more question?
One more, real quick, and then sure, go ahead.
For the male founders and employers who are in the room, what is the one thing that you wish we would do to go beyond lip service and just putting a picture of our one female employee up on our social media to really help advance women in VR and AR?
Hire them. Hire more than one.
We got two.
Oh, yeah. I know. I saw your website. Just hire more. There's a lot of women out there, and hire them maybe at a different level of expertise, right? I mean, I think that's a problem that I encounter with a lot of my male founders who ask that question, because they want 10 years of experience with coding and Unity, and unfortunately, you're not going to find many people with 10 years of experience who are women. That just automatically cuts them off. So you're going to have to maybe be more flexible and say, all right, I'm getting some other benefit. Maybe not the same level of expertise in the coding yet, but there's other benefits that I'm getting to hiring this female employee, or this diverse employee who doesn't have quite the same depth of experience in actually coding, but has other experiences that can help in the overall experience, and they'll be gaining that experience with us. Because I get that one I get a lot, and there is a real problem there with that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a good point. That's like exactly. I agree with that so much, because the problem is that, oh, well, we looked for the best and they're not the best. Well, part of them because they didn't get the opportunities before too. So it's just, that's the cycle. But also put women on the interview committees. Like if you have group interviews, I think that helps a lot, because then they can might assess the woman that's being interviewed differently than the men. Put them in management positions if you can, like to your point, and. I just, and even maybe encourage groups that, like a women group, so that they have a voice, but they don't have to feel like they can't go anywhere.
Yeah, I'll just, lastly, just treat them as equal. So never make them feel like they're that elephant in the room, or pinpoint them out that this is the women saying, or this is an event we've created just for you. Just treat them as equal on the team.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say we are, I think all of us are committed to answering whatever questions after this. We're committed to helping your career. We're committed to building out your team. So feel free to come up to us afterwards. We are all three of us here for you. This is why we're here.
Perfect timing. There's a coffee break going on right now. So between now and 11:30, have a chat or reach out on Twitter. They got Twitter handles upstairs.
Let's do a group photo. I can do a 360 group photo. Come on.
All right.